Hi there, everyone. My name is Ezekiel, and today I've decided to make this video. And then I know that there are those that are in need of this video because in life, in some cases, you find yourself in a need for PC, for a personal computer for so many reasons. Maybe it might be for business reasons, maybe it might be for personal reasons, maybe it might be for professional reasons. So it's very important that as an individual you have uh, a valid information about what kind of a computer do you want, because we have these computers, they are differ we have different types of computers, and then we have different kind of computer as device specifications. So you must know exactly what is that do you want in a computer, so that you will be able to meet the requirement of any activity which you will be performing with your computer. So what I've realized, which is happening currently, is that uh, it happens that in the stores, in the malls, they sell you a PC, a computer with a high price that does not meet the minimum device specifications, or it does not meet the price with the device specifications. They don't match at all. So it's very important that you exactly know what you want, and then you'll be on the safe side at the end of the day. So my advice on purchasing computers, it will be to say, uh, check the online shops, check the online stores, and then compare the prices with the malls, so that you can make the right decisions. But that is not only an important thing. So we are gonna go through some important factors that we have to consider before we are buying a PC. Because of why? These factors, they are a very important factors in a computer, because if you made a mistake of choosing the wrong factors of a computer, then you will suffer the rest of your computer usage, which that is not what we want. What I exactly mean is that you'll buy a computer, and afterwards you will want to use the computer, and the computer will fail to perform the activities which you want the computer to perform. So making sure that you check these factors which I'm gonna share with you, you will make the right decision when you go to the store to purchase a PC. You will make the right decisions. You will never regret, because making a mistake of choosing the wrong computer in the in life going forward, you're gonna regret your decision, and which is not good. So we don't want you to regret. We want you to have an information at the first and make the right decision when you go to the store to purchase a PC. So let's dive into the computer and see which that factors am I talking about. So on our screen here, you can see there's a pop-up information on our screen. It says 4 important factors to consider before buying a PC, laptop, or a desktop. So these are the 4 important components you must consider before buying a PC. So number 1, it is something called a processor. It is something called a processor. So what is a processor exactly? Processor is one of the important components of a computer. It is processor is one of the important components of a computer, that without a good processor, your computer performance will be very slow. And slowly in a computer is something that we don't want. We want a computer with a high speed performance. So what is a processor exactly? A processor, it is a component in a computer that processes information it interprets information, and it actually fulfills the instructions in a computer. So a processor, it does not work alone. The processor alone, it cannot fulfill the activities of a computer. The processor alone is not enough in a computer to perform activities, to perform tasks in a computer. So a computer, it needs a speed. No, I mean the processor, it needs a speed so that it can be able to perform activities in a very short period of time. If it has the right speed, it will perform the activities or the tasks within a short period of time. So the processor, it is measured in terms of the speed. It is measured in terms of the speed. And those speed, it is determined in the form of a gigahertz. It is determined in the form of a gigahertz or a megahertz. But a megahertz, it is not recommended because it is a small kind of a speed compared to a gigahertz. So for a processor to perform its activities, it needs a speed, and this speed is measured in gigahertz. So this simply means that the processor must have a gigahertz of 3 and more. The gigahertz must be 3 and more. The minimum is 2.5, but the recommended is 3 and more. The processor of a computer, the recommended is 3 and more. The minimum is 2.5, but the recommended is 3 and more. Why is it that 3 and more? Because the higher the gigahertz, the better the performance, and the higher the performance. So bear in mind that we don't only consider the numbers, but we also consider the activities which you're going to perform with the computer, which that falls under the third point here, which it says types of processors. So based on the tasks, you must choose based on these two types of processors. But that comes second. The first thing, it must be the processor, which it must be in gigahertz, which the gigahertz number, they must be 3 and more. That is what is recommended. And the minimum, it must be 2.5. But the recommended, why is it recommended to be 3 and more? Because when it is 3 and more, it's gonna be able to be faster and faster. It's going to be fast. It's going to perform activities faster than 2.5. 2.5 is the minimum. So the recommended is 3 and more. So when you go to the store, make sure that the processor is 3 and more. Make sure that the processor is 3 and more. Is 3 and more in gigahertz. It must be in gigahertz. It must be in gigahertz, not in megahertz. It must be in gigahertz, because the gigahertz is the more high speed of performance than the megahertz. So the processor must be 3 and more. 3 and more. So when you can see down there, we have two types of processors. After you have made your choice on the the number of the speed of a processor, which must be 3 and more, you come to the types of processors. We have different types of processors. We have a processor that is made under the Intel company. There's a processor that is made under a company called Intel. So we have another company which is AMD Ryzen. AMD Ryzen. It is a company that produces processors. And we have Intel, which is a company that produces processors. So between these two companies, you must choose one. You must choose one, which is going to be the type of a processor. So choosing between these two, it needs you to have a knowledge about the activities which you are going to perform. For example, maybe if you are going to do a video editing, you are going to do business transactions, you are going to do, these are some of the things which you must check when you choose the type of a processor. But bear in mind that the main point of this video is about the processor numbers. So the processor numbers must be 3 and more, and then you come to choose the type of a processor that must be based on the tasks which you are going to perform with the computer. So now, since I've explained about these two types of processors, on these two types of processors, these companies, they have modifications, they have adjustments, they have models. So each and every year they modify their processors. Like the processor that is made last year and the processor that is made this year are not the same. The one that is made last year, it is the modification of it, the one of today. So someone can ask a question and say, is the modification of processors important? The modification of processors, they are important, but what matters the most is the speed that is measured in gigahertz. If I can have a processor that is made this year, is launched this year, and it has the small gigahertz, it's not going to perform faster than the one of last year with good gigahertz. So I do hope that you do exactly understand what am I talking about. And now let's look at the importance. Let's look at the importance of choosing a good processor. The importance of choosing a good processor, it will be that it will allow you to perform some professional activities without you stacking, without you being delayed by the performance of a processor. You will perform some personal tasks without you being delayed by the processor. You will do your business activities without you being delayed by the processor. If the processor, it has the good gigahertz, it's going to perform faster, and you are gonna enjoy your professional activities with good performance. You are gonna enjoy your personal activities with good performance. You are gonna enjoy your business activities with the best performance. So that is what we want. That is what we want the most. That is what is important in a computer. Because if your computer is low, it's kind of useless. It's useless because it is low. It cannot load even some of the online activities fast. It's gonna be low on online activities. It's gonna be low which that is not what we want. We want it to be fast so that you can be able to perform your activities happily and then with a very good performance. So let's look at the benefits of a good processor. The benefits of a good processor is that you'll be able to download some files and it's gonna be fast. The movies, the songs, the files, like, you know, the online activities, it's going to be fast. It's going to perform fast. You are not going to be in a situation where you are stuck because of the performance of a PC, which that is not what we want. No one wants that. And you are also gonna enjoy fast internet. You are gonna enjoy fast internet if you've made the right choice in the store to purchase, to choose the right processor at the store. And something important which I must mention is that you must know that the processor in a laptop, you cannot upgrade. So make the right decision at the beginning when you go to the store to purchase a PC. Make sure that you choose the right processor, because you won't be able to modify the processor. So the processor must be in gigahertz, and it must be 3 and more. It must be 3 and more. So now, since that is the case, I've talked about a processor. Let's go to the computer. When you go to the store, they're gonna display the device specifications on the notice board next to the computer. They show you the device specification, but in most cases they don't disclose the number of the gigahertz in processor. So you must go to the computer. They will allow you at the store to go to the computer and check the gigahertz, check the processor number, so the processor number of the speed. So you will go to settings. Let's go to settings. You go to settings, and then when you are on settings, you go to system. And when you are on system, you go to about. So when you are on about, it's gonna display to you the device specification like this. So when these device specifications, they are presented to you, you come to this. You come to this. You can see we have our processor here, and then we have the type of a processor, which is a brand, which is in a company that produces the processors, which in this case of this device specification, we have AMD Ryzen, which is the company of processor, which is AMD. So let's go, and then you can see we have the gigahertz. We have the speed of the processor, which is measured in gigahertz, which is 3.59, which that is what is recommended, and which that is so important, and it is the right decision to choose 3 gigahertz and more. So let's see in other example. I do hope you can see here we have the processor, and then the type of a company with the company that produced that processor is AMD, and the gigahertz is this one. So let's go and check any other. Any other company. So here you can see we have a processor, and then we have Intel, which is the company that produces processors, which is the type of a processor. This is a type of a processor, and then you can see on this example we have 2.10 gigahertz. So the recommended, it must be 3 gigahertz. 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 So you see the processor company is Intel, which is the type of a processor. You choose based on the importance of the activities which you are going to perform with a processor, with your PC. So you see that we have the processor, which is measured in the speed of 3 gigahertz, which is what recommended, which tells us that this is the right decision to purchase the computer with the processor of the speed that is measured in gigahertz in 3 and more. So the processor type here, it is Intel. It is Intel. And then we have the modification, which is Core i5. This is the modification. The Core i5 is the modification of a processor, which these companies, they modify their processors each and every year. So bear in mind that the modification of a processor is not more important than the speed, which is measured in gigahertz. And you must know that the gigahertz is what is recommended. Don't be in a situation where you choose a computer that here it is a megahertz, because a megahertz, it is the smallest kind of a speed measure, and then it is not that too powerful to handle heavy activities, heavy softwares, heavy applications. Megahertz is for simple devices. So if you find a computer which is in megahertz, just know that that is not a good computer. It's not going to be able to handle the heavy activities. It's not going to be able to handle the heavy softwares or applications. So I do hope you understand the point here. You do understand the point about a processor. I do hope you do understand the point about a processor. I want to explain in details about a processor so that we can move together on the same pace. So you can see the processor, and then the processor type, which is AMD, and then we have the speed, which is 3 and more recommended in gigahertz. So let's go to any other thing so that I can show you. So when you go to the store and you find a computer with this kind of a speed, just know that this computer, the performance is going to be very slow, and you are not going to at all enjoy the computer, because for you to download a movie, it's going to take 2 days, 3 days. It's going to take a long, and then even some online activities, you will struggle a lot to complete those in time. So you see the processor, you see the type is Intel, and the modification is i3, is Core i3, and then the speed, which that is most important thing. The speed, it is 800 megahertz, which that is too small. This is a very small kind of a computer. It is very small when it has 800 megahertz. It must be a gigahertz, and the gigahertz must be at least 3 and more for it to perform fast and then be reliable. So this one is very, very small, and then it's not at all recommended. And bear in mind that the megahertz are for old computers and also for simple devices. It was used in the old times, not now. So I do hope you do understand the point about the processor. I do hope that this is a clear information for you about a processor. So let's move to another one, which is RAM, the second on the list. The second on the list, which is the RAM. Which is the RAM? The second on the list, which is the RAM of the computer. This is the second thing to the second thing to consider before purchasing a PC. Number one is the processor, which we have went in detail about the explanation and the description. So that is number one, and then this is number two, the RAM. So what is a RAM? A RAM, actually, it is a memory. It is a computer memory. It is a memory. So this kind of a memory, it actually it actually stores some data for a short period of time, while the other data, they are in process, they are being processed by the processor. So the RAM, it stores that information for a short period of time, and then it transfer it to the processor so that it can be processed. So this memory is very important. It's very important. It must be a very good kind of a memory. It must be big so that it can be able to handle some big applications, some softwares that will be carrying information and transferring it to the processor, even the calculations, even any kind of heavy activities. The RAM must be big to be able to accommodate the requirement of the storage of those information, applications and softwares. So it is regarded as the brain of the computer. It is regarded as the brain of the computer. So the recommended of the RAM, just bear in mind that in today's computers we have a new technology, which is a SSD solid, which is a solid state driver. It's also it works hand in hand with the RAM. So when it comes to RAM, the recommended, it must be 8 gig. The recommended, it must be 8 gig of the RAM. And if you are using the applications that are too heavy and the softwares that are too heavy, you must have at least a RAM of 16 gig and more. But if you're not going to perform any heavy activities, like you don't need heavy applications and softwares, you can just use the minimum, which is 8 gig, which is 8 gig. 8 gig is the recommended. The minimum is 4 gig, but the recommended is 8 gig. The minimum is 4 gig and the recommended is 8 gig. And if you're using the applications which are heavy and the softwares which are heavy, you need 16 gig and more. So for SSD, it must be 68 gig and more. 68 gig and more. So that is it about the RAM or SSD. That is it about it. I do hope you do understand the importance of it, as this is also one of the most important factors to consider when you are on the store to purchase a PC. So now let's go to the third one. Let's go to the third one, which is the storage. So the storage is also important, very, very important, because the second storage, this one, it is, we call it the second storage, is the storage that, you know, stores the music, it stores the videos, it stores the files, it stores the system of the computer, it stores everything of a computer. So this storage, this second storage, is very, very important. You must make sure also that you make the right choice when it comes to the third storage. So the minimum is 500 gig and the recommended is 900 gig and to 1 terabyte and more. It must be 900 to 1 terabyte and more. That is the recommended one, but the minimum is 500. The minimum is 500, but the recommended is 900 gig and to 1 terabyte and more. So this storage is very important because it's going to carry everything: your music, your videos, your files, your songs, your computer system, applications and softwares, everything it's going to be stored into this second storage. So this second storage is very important, that you also make the right decision when it comes to the third storage. The recommended is 900 gig and 1 terabyte and more. So the minimum is 500, but the recommended is 900 to 1 terabyte and more. Excuse me. So that's what is important to consider before you purchase a PC. So now let's go to point number 4, which this one is just a bonus. Actually, it's a bonus. It's important also. It is a bonus and is also important. Like the brands of a computer, the manufacturer of a computer. So we have the manufacturer of computers. We have Apple, we have HP, we have Microsoft, we have Dell, we have Samsung, we have Toshiba, and then we have Lenovo, and then we have Asus, and then we have Acer. So these are the kind of manufacturer of computers we have. These are the companies that manufactures the products we want. So when you are on the store to choose which kind of brand to go with, just know that the number 1 on the list, which is rated about 10 out of 10, it can be Apple, is Apple. And then we have number 2, which can be rated at 10 out of 9, which is HP. And we have Microsoft, which is rated at 8 out of 10. And then we have Dell, which is rated at 7 out of 10. And we have Samsung, which is rated at 6 out of 10. And we have Toshiba, which is rated at 5 out of 10. And then we have Lenovo, which is rated at 4 out of 10. And then we have Asus, which is rated at 3 out of 10. And then we have Acer, which is rated at 1 out of 10. So the best ones are the first and the second and the fourth on the list. So they go based on the list which I have shown here, from the top to the smallest. So these are the 4 important factors to consider before purchasing a PC, which number 1 is the processor, which must be which the recommended is 3 and more. And then number 2, we have the RAM, which it must be 8. The recommended is 8 gig and more. And then if you're using the big applications, the heavy applications, and the heavy softwares it must be 16 gig and more. And then for the SSD it must be 64 gig and more, which I didn't add here. SSD it must be a 64 gig and more. SSD. So for SSD it must be 64 gig and more. So why these factors are so important? Because they are measuring how fast your computer will be. They are measuring how fast your computer it will be, the performance of your computer. They determine the performance of your computer. So if you make the right decision, then you will not regret. The third storage, which is 900 gig recommended, to 1 terabyte and more. 500 is the minimum, but the recommended is 900 gig and to 1 terabyte and more. So number 4, which is the bonus, you must check the brands. The brands also matters, but the brands does not matter the most than these three, which is the processor, the RAM, and the storage. So I hope this video becomes too helpful to you. Before you make your decision to buy a PC, you already know what are the most important factors to consider before you purchase a PC. So I hope this video becomes too helpful to you, and then subscribe to the channel. And then you know, there is another video that is made about choosing between these two type of processors. So you must search, and then you will find another video where I explain about these two type of processors, how to choose, and why it is important to choose which one from these two. So yes, no, I do hope that it becomes too beneficial and too profitable to you. From me to you, it's shalom.